Good afternoon. I want you to take a moment and think about your everyday life and how often you read. How often you read while working, how often you read while sipping your morning coffee, how often you read while surfing the internet, and even while driving your car. What would you do if you were unable to read? I'm not talking about reading advanced, complex writing. I'm talking about reading at a basic level, like you learned when you were in third grade. What do you think happens to people that can't read at a basic level? We know that 7 out of every 10 prison inmates can't read above a 4th grade level. We also know that if you can't read, you are more likely to drop out, and high school dropouts make up 75% of citizens receiving food stamps and 90% of Americans on welfare. The crazy thing is, thanks to the Annie Casey Foundation, we can predict the likelihood of students dropping out of high school based on whether or not they can read at the end of 3rd grade. Almost 9 out of 10 high school dropouts were struggling readers in 3rd grade. Knowing these statistics, if you could do one thing to cut illiteracy rates in half in 3rd grade, would you do it? Well, a decade ago, Florida's response to that question was yes. Knowing the devastating statistics and the fact that 30% of students, 3rd grade students in Florida, could not read, Florida put a command focus on early literacy in the primary grades. That focus, this may ruffle your feathers, that focus including retaining students at the end of 3rd grade if they could not read at a basic level. It is important to note that Florida's policy did not retain students for retention's sake. As a matter of fact, Florida took a comprehensive approach to K-3 literacy with the goal of all students reading at the end of 3rd grade. That was the goal. Retention was a last resort. Okay? So Florida's policy includes 5 key components. One of those components is early identification. All students in the state of Florida, K through 3, are screened within the first 30 days of school. All K-3 students. That screening was twofold. The first reason why kids are screened, it serves as providing information to teachers so they can plan and better inform instruction to meet the needs of each individual child. The second reason is to identify any student having reading difficulties. The instant a child was identified as having some reading difficulties, parents were notified as early as kindergarten, the first 30 days of school. So all stakeholders were involved from the very beginning to support literacy for this individual child. Not only were parents notified, they were also involved in creating individual reading intervention plans. The reading intervention plans basically spelled out the intervention strategies that would be employed by the school to help improve reading for individual students. Students that were having difficulties in reading were also monitored more frequently. They were monitored more frequently to track their progress, to see how they're doing, to working towards grade level proficiency in that particular grade. Kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Lastly, at the end of 3rd grade, students who were unable to score, let me rephrase that, at the end of 3rd grade, students scoring at the lowest achievement level on our statewide reading assessment, which is called the FCAT, were required to be retained in 3rd grade. Students that score a level 1, which is the lowest achievement level on our statewide reading assessment, are severely below grade level. Many people would even suggest that they were functionally illiterate. Okay? So they faced retention. But I think it's important, once again, that we didn't retain kids without a different course of action. You can't line up students, send them through, and think another year doing the same thing is going to produce different results. So, students that are retained receive a completely different course of action, which includes more intensive interventions. And to give you some examples of those intensive interventions, 1, the Florida's policy required summer reading camps to be offered to all students scoring at the lowest achievement level on our statewide assessment. Summer reading camps, kind of piggyback off what somebody said today, summer reading loss is a big issue in not only Georgia and not only Florida, in all states nationwide. Summer reading camps give those students more time to get instruction and intervention targeted specifically to their needs. Another intervention strategy that's required to be provided to retain students is a highly effective teacher. In the state of Florida, we do have teacher evaluation systems that now include student outcomes, and students that are retained in 3rd grade must receive a teacher that has been classified as a highly effective teacher based on our new teacher evaluation system. Not only are they required to have a highly effective teacher, they're also required to have a dedicated amount of time, 90 minutes of reading instruction at a minimum, for instruction and intervention to meet their specific needs. And it goes above and beyond that. They're also required to have additional intervention services on a daily basis based on the areas of deficit, to target those areas and catch them up with their peers. Lastly, parents. Parents are so important, and I think a lot of the parent pieces and parts to a policy get lost because a lot of educators think that's fluff. Parents are so important, and that's why they're involved from the very beginning to the end. Parents of retained 3rd grade students are offered supplemental tutoring before and after school. They're offered a mentor to support the child and encourage the child in the school day, in the school setting, as well as what's called a Parent Read at Home program that also includes parent training, not to teach parents how to teach their kids to read, but how to encourage them and support literacy in the home. Okay? As a result, schools completely reorganized and shifted all of their resources to kindergarten and 3rd grade because they realized the importance. And the reason why they shifted all their resources to K-3, because the goal was to ensure all kids by the end of 3rd grade were reading on grade level. That was the main goal. Again, the goal was not to retain students. Our goal was to ensure they were getting the services they need, K-3, with the goal of all students reading by the end of 3rd grade. In 2001, 30% of Florida's 3rd grade students could not read at the end of 3rd grade, 30%. Today, we have cut that illiteracy rate nearly in half. Okay? I want to present that in a different way. Since the enactment of the K-3 comprehensive reading policy, roughly 200,000 kids are more prepared leaving 3rd grade and better equipped for high school graduation. To put that in perspective, every year there are 200,000 3rd graders in Florida public schools. So basically, the policy saved statewide an entire 3rd grade class. For those visual learners, oh my goodness. For those visual learners, do we have some Georgia Bulldogs in here? Do we? Do we not? Okay. I believe their stadium holds 92,000 fans. Okay. Think of 92,000 fans. Games sold out, 92,000. Times 2. And then add a 10th. Roughly. I don't do math, okay? But visualize that. 200,000 kids, okay? All right. The policy works. Having been a 3rd grade teacher of many struggling readers and students retained under this policy, I see the transformation that can occur when they begin to read and they understand what they're reading. Being able to read just boosted their self-confidence, boosted their self-esteem. They began to participate in class discussions. They began to engage in academic conversations with their peers. They even raised their hand in hopes to be called on versus sinking down in their chairs and looking the opposite direction in hopes not to be called on. I have a quote that hits home to me. Reading isn't just a subject. It is the foundation for all learning and critical for our children's future. I thoroughly believe that all kids can be taught to read. It just takes relentlessness on behalf of the parents, the student, teacher, and administration to ensure they do. Their future truly depends on it. Thank you.